Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Coach Kyle here. It is now September. It's getting a little bit cooler. We hate to face it, but hey, it's a great time to put our head down, to focus, to get the results we deserve, and feel our absolute best. If you are looking to get into the best shape possible, lose belly fat while gaining muscle at the same time, something that's very hard for a lot of people to do, but we've specialized in it. We've helped over 3,000 people in this exact scenario. All you have to do is send us a message with the keyword September Shred to our Instagram, which is Colossus Fit, COLOSSUSFIT. We can't wait to have a conversation, help you get the results you deserve, feel incredible. Now into this jam-packed episode.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all Happy podcast. I am your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
Quick breakdown, if you don't know who we are, we started our fitness YouTube about 8 years ago. We started working out about 10 years ago, and we were both on a personal journey to become our fittest, healthiest, and happiest selves. In doing that, we created a YouTube, we had vlogs, we had form videos, and we really built our business out around that and became experienced fitness coaches and helped now over 3,500 people achieve their transformations. And then we said, let's take that a step further, and we started this podcast. I can't remember exactly when we started it now, but it's been absolutely awesome helping every day, just anyone, no matter your situation, whether you're a pro athlete, whether you're a mom of four, whether you're someone who's never stepped foot in a gym, become fitter, healthier, and happier. So if that's your goal, this is your first time here, we want to welcome you. This is an amazing podcast. We know you'll enjoy it. And to everyone who's been listening, thank you for continuing to tune in, and even just, I want to say, good work, just wanting to become constantly fitter, healthier, and happier, because all of our tips and the entire point of this episode is to help optimize around that. And if, as you know, if you are around here, we love starting out with some quotes that have inspired us and motivate us to think differently or think bigger. So let's kick it off with Kyle's quote.
So this morning I was listening to a motivational video. Don't know who it was, but Eric Thomas, I know, was just yelling this thing. He's a great motivational speaker, which in fact, we're actually going to go see him in the next month at a conference, which is going to be awesome. But that's a whole nother story. We'll have lots of stuff to talk about there. But he had said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And I know I've shared this quote quite a few times in the past, and it is something that every time I'm reminded, I have different things on the top of my head. And what really inspired me to share this at this current moment is that I feel like there's so many people who have just tons of potential, but they keep trying to do the same things. They fail, they try the exact same thing again, they fail, and they don't really sit down and think, okay, what's actually working, what's not working, where do I need to make that change? And when I have a conversation with someone, they'll be like, I'm trying my diet again, or, you know, it's a new fresh start. And there's nothing wrong with fresh starts, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, what am I going to do different for the last 5 or 6 times that I failed, and how am I going to implement that? And it's so hard when I have these conversations with these people in the DMs or friends or people around me, and they're just like, I'm starting over again. This is my, week 1 of my shred. But then you've heard that 7 different times, and it's like, sometimes you just have to change that thing, whether it's accountability, whether it's a new approach, whatever it is. Like, you don't have to change things drastically, but you just need to implement one different thing. And that could be hiring us. That could be taking us up on this summer shred offer, September shred offer, which I highly recommend, and we will take care of you. So once again, my quote, I'm super fired up about it. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results.
And I think that is a perfect segue into my quote. And that's something I've been just thinking about in general. And my quote this week is, don't go for bigger goals to get, go for bigger goals to grow. It's so easy to say, once I get there, I'll be happy, or just having these big goals and ambitions and only seeing success in the process of getting them. But I'm a big believer in setting goals that are a little bit out of reach, that motivate you to get so much further. And to Kyle's point, it's so easy to say, I want a 6-pack, and maybe someone will start, they'll be 100 pounds overweight, they'll lose 50 pounds, they'll say, I didn't get the 6-pack, I failed. But it's like you're 50 pounds further on your journey and you're still on that path to get there. And it's really easy to get discouraged by only having a mindset of, when I achieve this thing, I'll be happy. But we've spoken before about the power of the process and enjoying that. And to Kyle's point, I've really just been, I guess, to segue into the thoughts, been thinking about that all or nothing mentality. And I saw a really good post the other day, and I liked it. And it said, doing 30 minutes of a workout is better than no workout. Logging half your food is better than logging none of your food. Going on a short walk is better than going on no walk. And I loved it because so many people have this attitude of either I do it all the way or I don't do it. And of course, we want to do things right and we want to be tracking our food properly, doing full workouts. But the point is, by actually just making sure to get out there to do it, to enjoy the process, to accept that sometimes maybe you won't be able to do things to the full capacity or you're injured and you're working around that, but just taking the importance and enjoying the process of it. I just think it really is a good way, and it's a freeing way of thinking of it, because if you feel like you need perfection, you're not going to achieve that. You're going to get demotivated. You're going to end up throwing everything away because you're so fixated on getting that goal instead of thinking on using that goal as a position for you to grow and become a better version of yourself.
Absolutely. And that could honestly be the main thing that's holding most people back. And you just think about it for a few minutes of like, okay, why do I need to restart again? Why am I failing? Like, and whatnot, because what Josh was saying, that kind of all or nothing mindset and just everything that takes place within that can 100% hold you back. And it is, once again, something that we have so many different conversations. And even when people sign up for our coaching program and they start to take that leap and we kind of start talking about, okay, what's happened in the past? Why didn't you succeed? Or, where have you struggled and all that other stuff that we like to ask, we do hear a lot of this stuff be like, okay, well, I had a bad weekend, so I feel like I need to start back at square one, or, the weekends or social events. And there's always these things holding you back. And that's when you find these ways to integrate it. And we're also going to be talking about a great question of how to navigate social events, because I know it is a common thing still, even with fall coming up. But yeah, that's all I really have there. I really like Josh's quote as well. Don't go for bigger goals to get, go for bigger goals to grow. Definitely got me thinking. They always get me super fired up, but hopefully these quotes stuck with you and you learned something from them.
Yeah, and anytime you listen to a motivational video, you'll hear people talking about the process, coaches talking about the process, but it's the process that is just so important. And the more you can change away from, like I said, just that golden carrot, like when I get that carrot, and instead enjoy that process, you'll actually find you'll notice you improve a lot, because you'll notice and look at things a lot more rationally than just whether you're doing it perfectly or you're a failure, and instead understand that everything kind of contributes to the whole. And I know that's a little open-ended, but I'm sure there's someone that needed to hear that today. So that's all I have for thoughts. We're going to go ahead and transition into our client shout out. Who do we have this week?
So this week we have Chelsea, and she has done some incredible things. I have shared her before, but her ongoing transformation is just phenomenal. She's lost well over 100 pounds on her journey. She's feeling incredible. She actually just had a kid and is jumping right back to it, feeling super fit, healthy, happy, nice and consistent. And it's amazing to see when someone's identity essentially is ingrained in being a healthy and a fit person. And you can kind of tell when these obstacles come up, such as maybe having a kid, such as maybe some busy work schedules, some travels and stuff like that. No matter what, I find that the most successful people are those that kind of transition into being that healthy person. And it is something that even can be changed, right? Chelsea, you can see on the screen here, she was very overweight. She wanted to make that change. She was that person who would have that extra little bit of food, who wouldn't exercise, and did a full 360, like completely different person. I guess that would be a 180, and is just now that person who's just in the gym, who's crushing it, who right up until pregnancy was doing some great things, right out of it doing some amazing things. And it's just phenomenal to see. I wanted to give some some credit where credit's due to Chelsea. And if you are looking to see, you can watch on the screen for some visuals on YouTube, or you can check out her Instagram, which is linked down below, for a testimonial video, which she had said, some different tips as well, and just show her some love, which will mean the world. But if you are, once again, looking to get to that next level, you want accountability, you want to see that change. If this is you, don't hesitate to send us that message with the keyword September Shred. We will take care of you, and I really hope you take us up on this option. Amazing job, Chelsea, and let's keep crushing it.
All right, we're going to jump into our mailbag. And first and foremost, we have, how would you go about navigating social events? I find this is where I struggle the most, and I always feel guilty when I mess up. Any tips?
So yeah, an incredible question. And just as we were saying before, a lot of times you have to look at what is holding me back and where do I mess up. And I'd say, and some of you can definitely probably relate to this, a lot of people, when it comes to social gatherings, travel, anything that just throws you out of your normal routine, you just panic. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to navigate. And we have a bunch of different tips. I know Josh will have some great things as well. He's amazing at this, and I learn a lot from him, especially going to different events, and seeing some of our friends get married and seeing how he navigates. And there's all these great things that you can learn even just from traveling with someone as well. You learn people's habits. But the first thing, honestly, is just preparing with the right mindset, either the day before or the morning of. And so many people become reactive when it comes to it, like especially when a social situation's coming up, like you have so much time to prepare for it, whether that's fasting in the morning, whether that's loading up on protein in the morning, getting tons of veggies at lunch, and then allocating lots of calories for later on. That will be the number one thing that I highly recommend, especially if you're someone who navigates and has to navigate a lot. You travel a lot, there's lots of business trips, there's lots of family get-togethers. To me, this will be the one thing that will always be tried and true, and it's just so easy. You might be a little bit hungrier early on, but at the same time, it allows you to just feel so much better and not feel like you have to go backwards, like some people do when they do have to go through these situations. And then the other thing is also just being able to accept and know that this is a special event. And the one thing I will say is it really depends, because if it's a wedding, it's very different. If you're talking about barbecues every week and just get-togethers like every few days, like you have to understand those are, to me personally, a bit different. A wedding, a really important family member's birthday party, like these are also just, once again, a little bit different in terms of navigating. But one thing I will do, especially depending on the situation, depending on what food is there and how excited I am for it and how the week has gone, I will sometimes allocate a certain amount of calories to go over, depending on, once again, the situation, where I'm at in the shred, how important it is, and also just being able to accept that this might push me back just a little bit. But at the same time, if I'm really looking forward to that situation and it's something that I decide that I personally want to do, I think most people struggle because they lose complete control. They go in with no preparation. They don't really think about any of this stuff. And then you always feel like you regret it afterwards. And then you carry it over until the next day, until the next day after, and it's constantly ongoing. But that's why taking a look at it, preparing, mentally thinking about it for a few seconds or a few minutes will help you out a ton. And just wanted to share that with you. I'm sure Josh has other stuff as well.
Yeah, one of my biggest tips is just self-belief. By knowing that you actually can do it, any situation, I assure you, if you're motivated enough, you can find a way through it and you can be successful. I know it can be a little daunting, like even weddings, parties, but really having a game plan, in my opinion, is one of the best things. And you kind of know what you're getting into and you kind of know the limits that you're willing to do. And if you have to budget more calories, you can definitely do that and you can have the ability to do that. And also, we're big believers too on like doing what's realistic. If you're at a place in your journey where you're comfortable and you're like, I'm okay. If you're dieting, you're like, I'm okay today not being a net productive day. Maybe it'll put me 3, 4, 5 days behind my progress, but I'm going to have an extra 600 calories, and that's going to allow me to enjoy my favorite dessert, have this drink I want, whatever it may be. If you're okay with that, as long as you understand what's going to happen, because where people will go wrong is they'll do a plan or they'll go a little bit off and they'll be surprised to see the scale pop up or to see them more lethargic the next day. But you kind of got to know, you got to pay for the crime or do the time to, if you do the crime, something like that. And not like it's necessarily a horrible thing to do, but you just need to be aware of what that event will have in your journey. And sometimes for me, if I'm going to a really special event or dinner, I will budget myself an extra 500 or so calories. Keep in mind that is like a small extra bump up for me if I am eating around 3,200 calories. If you're eating maybe like 1,200 and you go 1,000 over, you're going to feel more of the effects of that. But that's where it really becomes kind of a personal decision. But I find 99% of the time you can definitely fit within those parameters, still have a great time and be reasonable. And a lot of the time where people really go off the deep end, it's because they're going so heavy in excess. Maybe you're having 2 dinners or you're really having like an insane amount of dessert. It's probably more than you want anyways. So I think being really reasonable with that, I think it allows you to go to events, enjoy them, feel no guilt from them, and still see progress, which to me is like the best, because there's a lot of times where it'd feel good to go to like an ice cream buffet. You'd feel really good while you're eating it. You'd feel horrible after, you feel horrible the next day. So really kind of identifying what you want. I always like to know like the first 5-10 bites will taste the same as the next 100. And if anything, you might get sick of it. Avoiding snacky foods. Like if I have a plan, I have things logged, I'm going to a barbecue and there's bowls of chips, that's outside of the plan. I know that's just easy to grab and mindlessly eat. I'll really avoid those things. I'll be really intentional when I'm eating my foods, especially when I'm dieting. I'll really take the time to enjoy and appreciate those. And that'll be a really, really awesome little bonus add-on. So those are my top tips there. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, and like I think the main thing, and this is something I told myself I was going to avoid doing because it's something I used to do back in the day, was just like just not have the screw mentality. And once again, similar to what we were saying before of how people need to start over consistently and just always just kind of self-sabotage themselves, is like if you do go out to these social events and you do happen to, let's say, end up saying, hey, I'm going a few hundred calories over, that's what I decided, or whatever the situation is, it's just so easy to just grab whatever it is because you know that, okay, this might be the last opportunity, or you might be thinking, okay, well, today's the day to just go to 5,000 or 6,000 calories because I've already blown it, so why not? And that alone is just going to keep pushing you so much further back. And that's where it gets a little bit tough. Like there's a big difference between choosing a couple hundred calories and saying, hey, I'm going to allocate, I'm going to plan a bit, but I'm going to enjoy this extra drink or steak or, dessert or whatever it is, versus just saying, I do not care at all. Nothing else matters. I'm just going to go off the deep end and just have no worries at all. But that's my last thing that I wanted to say. And I just think being able to navigate these things and learning how is one of the most important things. That's why, once again, within our coaching program, our goal is to be able to help you stay on track. And even I get so many messages now, and that's what's best about being able to navigate for each person. When people travel, I have got a lot of clients going camping, doing all these different fun things, obviously wedding season coming to an end, but also lots of them still going on. So that is the best part. And that's something to really think about, is how can I make this work so that way I still succeed, or even within these events may not be making tons of progress, but also not going backwards. So that's all I have to say there. And before we jump into the next question, if you are listening, you are valued to us. We appreciate you all. And we did want to give you something for free today. We have 65 exercises put together in a very simple to follow ebook, no strings attached. This is simply going to either bring you to the YouTube video or just give you a bunch of things to avoid doing and to start doing. And we just want to give you it as a free gift, as a thank you for listening, for supporting, for being awesome. You will get on our email list, and each week I send one email on the Monday, which gives you a full recap of just some updates, some quotes, some amazing things. On top of this amazing Monday episode, you get a motivational Monday email as well. So once again, lots of value added there. Highly recommend it. You can click the second link down below to get your free ebook, Fix Your Form Guide, completely free. And let's keep going. Hopefully you enjoy it.
110%. Now we'll get into our second question, which is, got asked by a coworker what pre-workout I use, thinking emoji. I said sheepishly, I don't. I've never really used pre-workouts or supplements in general. Like, should I be? I know this is the number one question you guys get, but I guess I've never really thought about it. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so this is from Whitney, a great question. One of my clients, and I did answer it specifically to her, just within our client check-in, and gave her some good input. But I did want to just answer it as well, because we do get asked quite a bit. And even one of my other clients had just asked, he said, hey, I'm feeling a little bit, like after a few exercises, like a little bit lower energy. Like, what are your thoughts? And I started asking some questions about, do they use pre-workout, all this other stuff. But either way, pre-workout is definitely a great tool to help you push through, to help you, let's say you get to that certain breaking point where you're a little bit more tired. It gives you more energy. There's caffeine, there's other stimulants involved. There's beta alanine, which can sometimes give you a little bit of, what's it called? Like, not jitters, but like you feel a little bit, itchy, and, kind of gets you a little fired up. Like, there's a lot of great stuff involved there. Now, where it gets tough is like, it's not going to solve every problem. But one thing I will say is really take a deeper look, and this is where it gets challenging, of like, is this going to benefit me? Do I want to start to maybe potentially rely on it? What time am I going to be working out? And it is something that can definitely be beneficial for some people, but you just really have to look at your scenario. If you're someone who works out at 6 p.m., you don't want to be taking caffeine and, utilizing it. But I even said to this specific client, I was just like, well, your workouts are already quite solid. You're already pushing yourself a ton. It's around lunchtime. She is having a bit of coffee beforehand as well, which is caffeine, and that is going to provide some good stuff throughout the workouts. And it's definitely a very personal question. But once again, it's one of those things where you have to take a look at your situation, evaluate it. There are tons of benefits to taking pre-workout. Once again, pushing the endurance, being able to push the strength. Like, it has been shown that you can increase just overall strength, endurance, all that great stuff by, I don't know, let's say 10 to 20%. But it is something you have to be careful of, because even myself, like I'd like to say that I'm not reliant on it, and I would like to potentially ease off of it, but I am someone who uses it consistently, and it's just turned into essentially a habit. But I just want to share that, and maybe it'll get some people thinking, but give it a shot if you want, but it's also not necessary.
Yeah, like it's an extra awesome boost. So like Kyle said, the main things are you're getting your caffeine, you're getting beta alanine, which will give you that mental alertness. And there is some interesting study on that about just having a little bit more like longevity and ability in your workout, which is pretty cool. Some of them will contain creatine, some of them will contain citrulline malate, which is a really good pump agent that will actually help you get a little bit more of a pump. You get a lot of things for like mental alertness, like vitamins and different things they'll have in energy drinks. And it's just going to give you that extra little bit of a boost. You're also going to get the placebo, that feeling that you're on pre, you should be fired up. It's going to be a good workout. You're out there, you're pumped. The downsides obviously are you are getting extra caffeine. And if you're already a coffee lover or you're someone who works out late at night, this can be it can be a jeopardy for your sleep. So it is something definitely to be mindful of. And if you're working out hard and you're fine without it, I don't think you need to be taking it. And like having a reliance on anything is never a positive. So if you're able to get by without it, power to you. I think that's even better. Even for me, like when I deload, usually I'll deload every 8 to 12 weeks. I'll usually do a week with no extra pre-workout, no caffeine, to kind of let myself settle off of that. And even now I used to have maybe like 500 milligrams per workout, 400, like crazy amounts. Now I only have 1 scoop of C4, which I believe is about 125 or 150. I can't remember exactly, but I've kind of gone down to having a little bit less. But I find it gets me fired up, something to look forward to in the workout. I really enjoy kind of that tingle of beta alanine and the mental alertness I do get from it. So it can be a tool in your toolbox. Another thing I recommend is not taking it every workout, but taking it on those days where you want a little extra motivation, extra push. Maybe you're tired. And once again, that's where you do want to be careful and avoid that reliance, because if you can't work out without it, you probably got a little bit of a problem there, and that's something that's a downside for you. But in general, if you're happy without it, I don't think there's a need to rush out and get it. It's definitely a good tool. It's something you can have available. I also really don't recommend it if you're someone who doesn't have caffeine at all. I know some people don't like coffee. They don't really have anything that contains caffeine. And I know it can be quite a big shock going and having something that's very dense in it. Whereas if you're someone who has Starbucks blonde roast every day, you're not going to get hit with a pre-workout. Like it's not going to absolutely rock your world because you're more used to caffeine. But if you're having no caffeine, then you just go and have 400 milligrams, you're going to feel really horrible. So I always recommend when buying one, starting with a half scoop, kind of asking for a more introductory, less intense one, because there's some that are like, there was one called Crack that I was going to try that was apparently insane, and like it got stuck at the border, which is hilarious because you're like buying something called Crack, and like there's all these funny different names of pre-workouts. There was Jekyll and Hyde, that was crazy back in the day. There was like NO Explode, and that had some banned substance in it that would get people insanely focused and fired up. But now for me, like you can get C4 at like any grocery store, Sam's Club, Costco, any of that good stuff, Target. And to me, like it's a pretty good one. It's not overly dense with caffeine, and I'm not sponsored by them or anything. And there's other ones that are way better and tastier. And it really just depends what you're looking for. But if you can understand the structure of the ingredients, you can get one that's better made for you. For instance, you can get non-stim pre-workouts, which are another awesome tool if you want to avoid caffeine. But this is where you can go in a whole rabbit hole. And I find a lot of people spend a lot of money on pre-workout. A lot of them are over $1 a scoop now. So you have to consider you're kind of adding a lot of extra expense to you and your journey. And if you don't need it, it could be something you could save money on and invest wisely in having a coach, which will help you get way more better results than pre-workout.
Absolutely. And obviously, like, we have recommended it. We do say that it is definitely, without a doubt, one of the most, I'd say, like, beneficial if you were to list out everything. You know, there's so many other things that people spend money on, but I do believe this will give you better bang for your buck. So don't get me wrong, it is definitely up there. But I really like what Josh was saying there, because it got me thinking of how I do recommend protein as one of the top supplements. It's been tried and true. Most of them are really solid. It helps. But when you look at it as a whole, it's like, if you don't need it. So like, I'll have a protein scoop here and there. I know Josh doesn't really have any at all now because he's having, you know, all this great food. We're having more protein through chicken, through all this other stuff, Greek yogurt. So while it is one of the top supplements and something that can help a lot of people out, it's not something we consistently use because you don't really exactly need it. So if you are someone who's like, man, my workouts are awesome, I'm crushing it, I go at a really good time, you know, everything is all good, awesome, like you don't even need to worry at all. But if you're like, man, just halfway through I'm always getting stuck, I don't know what's going on, I'm losing energy, and you want to try it out, awesome. Give it a shot. See how it makes you feel. And but like Josh said, be careful, because so many people spend tons. Like they'll go out and just, you look at the bill and it's hundreds of dollars because they sell you on extra stuff. They're great at their marketing. They say, hey, buy one get one free, like buy one get one half off. And then they're like, hey, try BCAAs as well. And it's a very scary place to go down. Not that it's necessarily bad like for you, but just your pockets will feel it. And we want you spending stuff on we want you spending on stuff that's going to give you the best bang for your buck, like our coaching, like other stuff that's going to help you. So that's all I have to say there.
All right, into our third question. So there's an A and a B to this question. So we'll start with the A. I haven't really experienced much soreness from my workouts, and some days I don't experience any soreness at all. Is soreness a good measure of whether you effectively challenge yourself / stimulated growth or not?
Another fantastic question. I think like there's a lot of things people have in the top of their head that will lead to them thinking they've experienced growth, fat loss, great workouts. To name a few, sweating, that's one thing. I know a lot of people just kind of busted that myth. They think if I'm not sweating, it was not a good workout. But the same with soreness, and it has been busted in the past, and I am really happy about that. But soreness definitely doesn't mean that you're experiencing growth, that you're making progress. And this is something that I think some people struggle with, especially switching from that mindset of like, I need to be sore. Like it is tough because some people hate being sore, but then there's some people who feel like they haven't had a good workout or they're not making progress when they're not. So, in summary, it is absolutely not, a good indicator. However, the main thing is like, you will know that you're working the right muscle groups. Like let's say if you do a nice back day, back and biceps, and the next day you start to feel, man, my back's feeling a little bit sore, I'm feeling jacked up and all that stuff. Like you're like, okay, I worked the right muscle groups. But where it does get challenging is that I can literally give you change one small thing within your workout routine, make you do some sort of like stretching movement as well. That's one thing that leads to soreness. And you could be like, man, I'm sore for a few days. Like this is crazy. And there's so many other things to focus on, such as like just overall proper technique, progressive overload, make sure that you're just progressing in terms of your actual strength gain. Like these are the things that are going to help you help you so much. But even like I've learned a lot about what makes you sore over the years. And even like if I skip legs for a few weeks, which has happened in the past, and then I do legs again, I'm just going to be sore. It's just a matter of fact. And that doesn't mean that it was the craziest workout and I'm making progress and I'm gaining muscle. It's just that I hadn't done it in a while. So when you start to pay attention to these things that lead to soreness, you start to realize, what? It's like, I could make someone sore within a second. You know what I mean? So that doesn't mean you're making progress. So I just want to pop off there. It's something I'm passionate about, but stop chasing soreness, stop chasing, being crazy tired as well. Like that's something that I feel like some people struggle with, but that's my final answer there.
Really well said. And yeah, don't be tricked by that. Like soreness is just a result of new stimuli for the muscle. And that's why the adaptation is actually good, because when you start a new routine, you can get super sore, super beat up, and it can be hard to like get back in there and train that same muscle group a full day later or a couple days later when you're sore. But by your body adapting, you can become optimal in those patterns. And a rookie mistake is always needing to be doing something new. It's like, I did this last time, so I got to do something new. But you want to actually get really masterful within that movement. And that's why I usually like programming blocks around about a 12-week term. Because in that 12-week term, there's a lot of capacity to really drive up the intensity, to push forward, and to actually see really measurable progress. Because a lot of optimization for strength is learning to be optimal in that movement and for your body to get more efficient in that movement. And that efficiency will come with the reduction of soreness because your body is used to it. It knows what a bench press feels like. And then, of course, you're going to tear it up if you switch over to a single arm cable with a really, really slow eccentric motion. It's natural you're going to get sore from that. And like Kyle said, a lot of PTs will have you just do something and they'll have you half the weight, but they'll tell you to focus on squeezing it and doing it slow. And of course, you're going to feel it more. But building strength can also build more muscle, and that's where you're actually giving yourself time to advance in that. I do like daily underlying periodization. That's something I use, and that's where you can actually mirror movements so that you're not going to get overly sore, but it is new stimuli, a new challenge, and that is something we do in all of our programming. Example of this, 1 week you could be doing incline press, and you could be doing that for 12 reps, the next week 8 reps, so you can get benefit by switching rep schemes. Or you can actually mirror that movement. And so instead of an incline barbell press, you do an incline dumbbell press. And it'd be the same family. You can still be optimal in it. You can get new stimuli, and you can also, most importantly, get new enthusiasm towards it, because I find that's where people really want new things because it's new and it's exciting. But to be great, you got to be really optimal at doing some of those boring things. And not being sore doesn't mean you're not doing anything. And we've said it before, but soreness is a good indicator that you're working the right muscles. If I'm trying to do RDLs and I'm really wanting to focus on my glute and my hamstrings, the next day my back is jacked up. Like, of course your back's a mover in it, but I feel nothing in my legs and it's the first time I've done it. Chances are I'm overusing my back and I'm not really optimizing those muscles I want to do. Similarly, if I'm doing like a tricep push down and my shoulders are sore, I'm definitely cheating through that movement. I'm not feeling it. So that is where soreness, in my opinion, can be a good indicator. And those were just a couple of things I wanted to add. Then for the second part of the question, also, any problem working a muscle group that is still sore from the last workout?
Yeah, another fantastic one. I'm glad Josh just gave some great insights. A lot to think about there. But for this one, I mean, sometimes you just also get used to being sore. And I think there's a big difference between like feeling your muscles. Like, I'll use legs as an example. I've kind of gotten used to just like based off of adding in a bunch of sports, a lot of activities, going biking and then volleyball and then hockey and then all this stuff is like, I'm kind of, I guess, used to working through that. And I think the big thing to consider is like, there's a real big difference between like a little bit of soreness, like you've used your legs, you've, done some activities, you've tried some new things, and something where like you can't even walk, like you can't even move. So on that one side where it's like, hey, I'm a little bit sore, it's totally fine, I can push through, I might not be 100%, but I'm still going to do it. Like that's a big difference versus the other side. And, if you're someone who can't walk and you go in to do leg day, you're not going to be able to push as much. It's probably going to be doing more harm than good. And you have to ask yourself, like, because sometimes people will take shortcuts because they mentally will cut out. They'll be like, oh, I'm a little sore. And like, you have to ask yourself, like, is this actually going to harm me or hurt me? And there's been very few times I've ever gone into the gym with my programming and been like, no, I am like, this is not going to help me at all. Like I need more recovery. And I think another thing to consider is it also depends on the programming. Like that's the thing that Josh was saying as well, is like, when it comes down to just proper programming, when it comes to structure, like the way that we create these things is meant to give you enough time between leg days. It's meant to give you enough time so you're not doing things back to back. If you happen to be doing back on Monday and then the next day's back and chest on Tuesday, you're probably not doing something right. Like you shouldn't be doing it like that. So when it comes to programming, there's a lot of things to consider, but I would say you're typically totally fine if you experience a little bit of soreness, and just get used to it and you'll be able to push through, and it'll make you stronger for the next workout as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not fun, but also keep in mind you're going to be really sore and stiff when you're not moving as much. So once you get moving, you get some blood flow, you start to kind of get warmed up in the gym, you'll actually notice you're a lot less sore than you think. It's usually when you first wake up, you're like, oh, there's no way I can do it. But I promise you, blood flow, we always like to say motion is lotion. It's wonderful. It's going to help you get through it. And especially when you're starting a new workout routine, you really have to let yourself adapt into that soreness. It's going to be an adjustment. There's new motions, there's new amounts of volume, but there is new ability to gain that capacity to further see more muscle increase, to see just more development through and through on that routine. And like anything else, there's soreness to even doing things that are mentally difficult. Like perhaps you're like going to make a habit of listening to a podcast instead of listening to your favorite album on the way to work. Of course, maybe the music is just easier to tune out, or a book instead of Netflix at night, but doing that harder thing that you know is going to be better for you, you get through that little bit of discomfort and then you get to that position of greatness. And that's a lot of this journey, and that's a lot of self-development, is overcoming that discomfort to get to that position of greatness. And like I said, your body adapts. Same with calluses. I was thinking recently how I hardly really get any. Like I think mine are just so locked in. I mean, you can see on video here. Obviously my video cut out a little bit earlier in the thing, but we're still here getting it done. But even these, I remember at the start thinking, what the heck? My hands are so fried. It's hard to grip things. But it's amazing now how strong my grip is, my bone density. And I had to push through that part where if I could have just said, oh, I don't like being sore, I'm never doing this again. But by getting through that, it gets you to that next level. It helps you grow and develop. And that's why we always say, like, don't be scared of discomfort. Discomfort is just you growing. You just got to be bigger than that moment. So we really thank you for tuning in today. We do hope you enjoyed this episode. We would love to take you one-on-one and get you better results with our online fitness coaching. This is a formulated system guaranteed to get you results 5 times faster, as we have now for thousands of individuals. And this is your chance to reach out and work with me or Kyle or one of our other amazing coaches to see the progress you deserve. And if you're not progressing, this is your chance to do it guaranteed, to invest in yourself, to show yourself that you are indeed a priority and that you do want change. So to go ahead, take advantage of that. You can DM us on Instagram to @ColossusFit, COLOSSUSFIT, with the keyword September Shred, and we will take care of you. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. Peace out.